Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the 5th episode of Fact Up.
In this week's episode, our City Action Buffalo hears from a veteran journalist and a longtime community advocate about the annual State of Our City address and the mayor's proposal for 2024-2025 budget, which includes a 9% tax increase.
My name is Geoff Kelly, and I'm a government and politics reporter for Investigative Post, which is a not-for-profit investigative journalism center serving Buffalo and Western New York.
My name is Orayah Adams. I am OCAB's first intern, and it's great to be back with you guys. I missed y'all last week.
This is Maria Ta. I am the owner and principal of the Ta Collective LLC, which is my own consulting company that is geared towards supporting our arts and creatives here in Buffalo and all across the world.
Jeff, you attended the State of Our City.
I did.
This week at Share 710. You've gone to quite a few of these events. Can you describe for our listeners who weren't able to attend, and what were your impressions?
Now it happens not in January or February. It happens around budget time. And this was at Shays 710, which is frankly in need of some love. And capacity about 500. There may be 400 odd people there. It's like sort of a holy day of obligation if you work in City Hall. Like, you got to show up. Although I noticed that some council members didn't bother to come, which is a change. That's different. It was a little strange this year. It led with as far as I could tell, it was a promotional video made by the Buffalo Niagara Film Commission encouraging people to make movies here. Like, it wasn't about the city or its government or fixing potholes or providing services. It was about, like, how much Guillermo del Toro had a good time here, which is great. But I was...
At the State of Our City.
It was a mystifying beginning to the mayor's presentation, let me put it that way.
He's not speaking to the actual state of the city and what residents should know and care about. He's taunting himself and his colleagues. And unfortunately, that's not what should be brought up at the State of Our City.
Now it's a budget presentation, which makes it a little less spectacular because Buffalo's budgets are not spectacular. They're like bare bones. How are we going to keep the lights on?
And he offers a 9% tax increase as a way to balance the budget. Why? Because he would rather tax poor and working class people than, his real estate developer friends to pay their actual fair share.
It's not just a 9% tax increase. It's also using $15 million in the city's reserves. So that's about $30 million that the mayor had to make materialize in order to fund what is basically a basic services budget. There's not a lot of, there hardly ever is a lot of extras. It's really just paying for police, fire, and potholes,
A budget is supposed to be a moral document for the city, and this is not a moral document by any means.
I thought it was a kicker that it was at the 710 this year because it really played into how the mayor tends to showcase all the bright, shiny things. The Sundance Festival being
was wild.
That was... My jaw dropped. You opened with the Sundance Festival? What a slap in the face to all of the people who do incredible work in the arts community in Buffalo. I know for a fact with the people that I'm working with, we can barely get any kind of FaceTime with anyone from the administration to get any news about the ARP funds, for example.
Yes.
So let's talk about realistically where we're at and actually talk about the state of the city, not what the state of the city could be.
Jeff, my question is, can you possibly unpack the assessment for us and talk more about what 485-A is?
We've been running toward this fiscal cliff for years, and a gentle increases to the property tax, especially to commercial property tax rates, might have mitigated the situation that we're in now, and it would have prevented the necessity for that. Understand, it's necessary. We have to raise taxes in large part because we didn't before. We'd have been in better fiscal shape running into COVID if we'd done that.
Yeah,
we blame Byron Brown, right? But it's the council too. They take the blame together. They do this annually together, and instead they spent down more than $100 million in city reserves. That is to say, their budgets were never really balanced, not by revenue coming in. They claim to be fiscal conservatives. They're not. This could have been avoided by slow, steady increases in taxes, which would have, sort of lowered the shock value for property owners and for the renters who because this expense gets passed on to renters by the property owners invariably, probably with a markup. So there's that. And then there's also these exemptions, and 485A is like sort of the poster child for these because it's the worst, in many regards. Buffalo has all kinds of property that is tax exempt, and some of it's not-for-profits, hospitals and schools,
Yes.
Government-owned property. But then you have all these real estate developments that there's a whole panoply of tax exemptions that are available to them, some from the city, some from the state, some from the county. 485A, was intended to prevent the demolition of non-commercial properties that could be reused. Good intentions, right?
Okay.
But it quickly, like almost any subsidy program, developers and the elected officials who serve them will find ways to apply these exemptions in ways that the well-intended framers of the initiative may not have intended, right?
Yes.
And so you get things like One Canal Side, the Phillips Lytle property, where there's like one 900 square foot apartment in this whole big office building that qualifies it for $6 million in tax breaks, right?
And I would just like to clarify that OCAB agrees that taxes are a necessity for any city to grow and be a developed city, right? The problem is not the taxes. The problem to us is that type of increased tax in one period.
If you're reading anything from Geoff, if you're reading anything about the budgets in Buffalo, we are continually at a deficit. And in order to pay for those deficits, we're taking from our reserves, and we are hoping that we're going to have increased revenue in all of these areas that clearly have not shown an increased revenue year over year.
Because the Brown administration has been absolute death on taxes. They don't want to raise taxes, but prices are going up, not just for police and fire, for everything, but especially for police and fire. So they have to come up with ways to make the numbers add up. And so they sort of decide well, I know we only made $1.5 million on this last year, but wouldn't it be nice if we made $5 million in parking tickets? And you're like, first of all, no, parking. Why are you trying to make money on parking tickets? So you look at these lines, and it's just a little bit here, and fudging the numbers a little bit here and there. $500,000 there, $1 million there. But pretty soon you're talking about I don't know, cursory look. I saw at least $10 million in shady revenue assumptions.
So when you open up the budget document, typically what I'm doing is I'm going down the line and I'm seeing where are the big jumps happening. Oh, okay, so my city's trying to keep me safe by inflating the budget for the police and fire. Do I feel safe? Have I spent the last year feeling safe in my community? Have the people that I work, play, eat, sleep with, do they feel safe? I think most of us can say that's a hard no.
It feels like everything sort of waits until there's a crisis or there's a breakdown or people die. And then suddenly, there's the sense of urgency and people are sort of throwing around money, which, hey, where was this money?
Before?
Yeah, where was this money before when we were looking
be
for arts budgeting, right?
Right, right.
But there shouldn't be a disaster to happen in order for action to be taken.
No, you take action in order to prevent or mitigate a disaster, ideally.
Buffalo, you have a voice. Use it. May 15th, as that will be the one and only public hearing for this budget. So please come and let them know what you think about the tax hike and what the city should be investing in.